Oh, who wants their grits? Oh, don't go away, don't go away. Huh. Well, this is the kind of thing that happens sometimes. You end up with extra grits that you weren't expecting to have. Now, my cousins are from North Carolina, and when I suggested to my aunt that I had leftover grits and wasn't sure what to do with it, she said, "Well, haven't you ever tried grit cakes?" And I hadn't, so I had to look them up. And this turns out to be a really, really good thing. So to make this, what we're going to do is we're going to make this for breakfast. So we're going to make grit cakes Benedict. So I'm going to use the grit cakes when we fry them up to be the base instead of an English muffin. Then we'll do meat, poached egg, and a dill hollandaise on top. So we're going to work on all those stuff. But we basically have to set this up overnight. So I'm going to get this started now so that tomorrow at breakfast time we can power through the rest of it. So you have your leftover grits. Now you're going to prepare those. I'm not crazy. I'm not going to try to say what the best way to make grits are. You're going to prepare these the way you want to prepare them, or if you've never done it before, just do what the box says, and you'll be all right. Now from there, though, if we want to add any other flavors to this soon-to-be cake, now's not a bad time to do it. So I don't eat the stuff, but my wife loves cheese. So we're going to add some shredded cheese into these grits, which have already been buttered and salted. So I've got some shredded cheddar. And I think rather than the spoon, I'm going to use a whisk. I'm really going to whisk this together because this is still hot. And that was a 1/4 cup of shredded cheddar cheese. I chose a Vermont cheddar extra sharp, but you can pick whichever cheese you want to have in here. And then I have a baking sheet or a cookie sheet. Now what we're going to do is we're going to get these grits out onto this cookie sheet. And you got to get it all out and lay it out on the tray, because this we're going to spread out and then it has to cool. And basically it's got to cool overnight because then it's going to set up. So let's spread this out. Now, I won't be able to lift this tray because this is still very wet, but I think you can understand what just a sheet full of grits looks like. Maybe I'll give you a little bit there. We just want this to get flat. And I'm going to let this cool on the countertop until it stops steaming. Once it stops steaming, then I'm going to put on plastic sheeting over it, like plastic wrap, and I'm going to put it in my refrigerator overnight. And I have greased this pan ahead of time. So you have grits and grease and pan. And that's it so far, unless there's things you're adding. Now, I added cheese and butter, but if there's other flavors you'd like to have in this grit cake, by all means, go for it. So we are going to let this cool, and I will see you guys tomorrow morning, bright and early. See you then. Good morning, and welcome back to Dave's Delights. And today we're going to finish off what I started last night. And sometimes when you're in a planning phase for things, you think something seems like a really good idea, but getting up at 6 a.m. to film is now seeming dumber than it was when I planned it yesterday. But anyway, we're here, and the grits have cooled quite well. So now what we have to do is we got to make discs out of them. And if you've got a cookie cutter or whatever you have, I happen to have these silicone rings for making egg muffin eggs. I have it, which is a perfect muffin size. So I'm going to cut down in to these grits. And this size sheet will get me 6 of these rings. It would get me a better 6 of these rings if it wasn't 6 a.m. and I'm under caffeinated. But I just got it. So once that's out, then you have to take your spatula, and I'm going to pull these out of this, and I'm going to go ahead and do the breading process from here. So one is flour, and I've got 2 eggs beaten, and then I've got some panko breadcrumbs. And because this is a savory dish, I chose seasoned panko breadcrumbs. But if I was doing these and there wasn't going to be savory, I could use plain, or I could use any type of breadcrumb you like. I just think that these give a nice crunch. So here is your grit disc. I drop it down into the flour. I dredge it into the egg. Thus so. And I get it in. And you've seen me bread things before and you worry about the club hands, but this is too big an item for me to just use one hand for. So I've double-handed this, and that is now ready to go into the fryer. So I'm going to process the rest of these up, and I will meet you over here at my frying station in just a moment. And also, wash your hands. All right, we are at a pan of hot oil. The temperature is 368 degrees, so it is ready to fry. And I have my breaded grits, which we're going to gently drop in. And we're going to let this fry until it's golden brown. And that could take just a couple of minutes, or it could take a bunch of minutes. And it is going to splatter, so you want to give yourself a little bit of space because there's still moisture in that grit. By these temperatures and with a full submersion, you can see it's not going to take very long for that to crisp up. And it's just a game of, when you're frying with oil, it's watching the temperature, which I just adjusted down a little bit because we want to keep it hot enough, but we don't want to get it so hot that it starts smoking. And this is almost done already. As you know, the grit's already fully cooked, so it's just a matter of getting the outside fried enough for you. And I think that's going to be just another couple of seconds. All right, I'm going to kill the heat on that. Ow. And you can see that is golden brown. It is quite crispy. And that'll be a good base for our Benedict. So now we're going to get the oil off the heat, and we're going to move on to the next thing, which is going to be Hollandaise. Now, Hollandaise is just butter and egg yolks and lemon juice. So I'm going to cut up a stick of butter into cubes, and I'm going to take 3 egg yolks and the juice of 2 lemons, and we'll be right back. All right. So we are now getting ready to make our Hollandaise sauce. We have a double boiler here. So that water is boiling. And I've got a second pan that fits on top of it. And in this second pan that fits on top, I'm going to drop 3 egg yolks, as you can see. And I'm going to drop a teaspoon of white vinegar and the juice of 2 lemons. And I'm going to take a whisk. I'm going to get that mixed up. And now I'm going to get this back on this heat, which I'm going to cut back because I just need that water boiling. And I have an entire stick of butter, which I've cut into dices, diced little cubes. And I'm going to toss some of those in, and now the whisking starts. And we're coming on and off the heat as we need to, because I do not want this to turn into an omelet. I want this to become a sauce. So it's just a matter of stirring and stirring, and then adding more butter as it melts, then pulling it on and pulling it off of the heat. So I am going to come back once this is into a nice frothy mess, because it's going to take a couple of minutes, but I will see you momentarily. All right, this is back, and it's nice and frothy, and you see how thick it is. That's the whole stick of butter that's melted in there, and everything's come together, and I'm adding dill right now as we speak. I end up being about a half a teaspoon to a quarter to a half. If you like it heavy, you can go with a half. If you like it lighter, no problem with going with a quarter teaspoon. But you can see that's nice and thick. All the butter's melted, and it is not stuck to the sides because we haven't turned it into an omelet. So what I need to do now is I need to put this in a like a Yeti or something. It's some kind of an insulated bottle so that it'll stay warm while we're finishing off the rest. So this is going to go into that jug, and we're going to come back and we're going to poach ourselves some eggs. All right. So what comes in handy here is that we have boiling water from the double boiler already, which I've added 1 teaspoon of white vinegar to. And then I'm going to take a blue egg. Oh, wait. You probably don't have blue eggs. So I guess we'll have you do a regular egg that is not blue. And we're going to drop it into this boiling water very carefully because we're going to poach this egg right now. And you just take your spoon and you just try to keep everything together as it's cooking. You want to keep it off the bottom. The vinegar is going to help keep that albumin together. And we're just watching, because remember, this is an Eggs Benedict, so we're going to want that to be pretty runny still. But we want to have it cooked enough so that it's actually going to hold together on the plate. I'm flipping my meat that's next door here while we're waiting. Unlike flipping bacon with your bare hands. Let's see, how are we looking? Nope. About another 30 seconds. Because you want it together, but it doesn't have to be, all the way together. Back that heat down a little bit. You don't want tearing up that egg. All right. 1 poached egg ready for consumption. So we're going to be back over at the other station for final assembly. Okay, welcome back. And here we are to put this together. Now, if you're doing this in your kitchen, you're probably going to do a couple. So you'll have make the main components and then put them all together all at once. Or, depending on how quickly people are coming down for breakfast, you can make them one at a time. But as long as you have your insulated beverage cup, your Hollandaise will stay pretty good. You just might have to give it a little stir if it starts thickening. So we have our fried grit cake, and that is still warm there and ready to go. And we're going to add on some components now. Now you can put any kind of breakfast meat you want under this or no breakfast meat at all. My wife happens to like beef bacon, so I fried up a couple of pieces of beef bacon to put there. But traditionally you would use Canadian bacon. But honestly, any type of meat you want down there, it'll be just fine. And then we're going to gently coax that poached egg on top. I'm going to remove my lid to make it easier to pour this stuff. Oh, looks like I need a little bit of a stir. So, chopstick makes an excellent stir for the cup. And now, here comes the Hollandaise. This is a nice, healthy, low-fat breakfast. And put a little sprig of dill down next to that. And maybe I need to give this just a little extra bang. And there is breakfast for one. Pair this with some fruit and a nice glass of juice and some tea. You've got a heck of a breakfast. Aunt Vicky, thank you for giving me the suggestion for coming up with this idea. I've never heard of grit cakes, and now I have, and my gosh, they're good. And anyone else, please try this recipe. Let me know. Send me a comment. Tell me what you'd like to see next. We'll talk to you soon, and time for Dave to get some coffee. Have a great day.